Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to give the top 10 loadouts for Warzone right now as of the mid-season update. Even though there weren't really any changes in that mid-season update, we did see a nerf to the DMR, the Type, and the Diamattis, which kind of mixed things up and opened the door for a bunch of weapons to fit into the meta, as well as just become viable because of how broken that DMR and Type were. We're going to kind of go through the different loadouts. I'm going to kind of explain a little bit in terms of TTK and what other weapons are viable, because we only have 10 loadouts. That doesn't leave a lot of room to kind of have the top 20 weapons when we're really only talking about the top 10 loadouts. If you do enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Also, just a heads up, my Gfuel code is 30% off, so if you're looking to restock or try something new, you can just use the link near the top of the description or code JGOD at checkout for that 30% off, like I said, all the way up until the 21st. So obviously after those nerfs, kind of things have shuffled their way out and kind of opened the doors on a lot of different things. I put out a TTK chart the other day, which is linked down in the description if you want to kind of read through it and see how good weapons are based off theoretical time to kill. That means that you land the first bullet and you don't miss a single bullet after that. It kind of opens the doors, kind of figure out what is good, or at least what is worth trying. I think sometimes things slip under the radar just because maybe you didn't have all the right attachments for it. You didn't understand how the attachments work, especially with Cold War weapons. So you kind of wrote the weapon off entirely and didn't really give it a chance. Obviously, as we're learning more about what attachments do and don't do or should do, I think things are finding their way into the mix. So just because a gun kills faster doesn't always mean it's the best weapon. As we've seen with several weapons over time, accuracy plays a critical role, especially as you get beyond that medium range and go into a long distance range where you're trying to take on a sniper off a head glitch at over 100 meters. Accuracy is way more important than the theoretical time to kill, especially when we're talking about like an SMG, for example. So there's several other factors to look at besides TTK. Obviously got recoil and accuracy, movement speed, aim down sight speed, magazine capacity. Some guns are just held back because they don't hold enough ammo. ASVAL is a perfect example of that. Really good gun, but 30 round mag just isn't enough. You really would prefer to have a 50 round mag in that type of situation. But let's get into it. So if you guys have been following the channel for a while, I typically lay them all out for there, and then I kind of explain why I'm using what. There are plenty of weapons that aren't going to make it on the list, but they are very viable. Bruin is one example of that, but there's plenty of others out there. Currently, my experimental class that I kind of mess around with and see if I like different things is the M16 AUG. That's kind of what I've been testing a little bit. Obviously, I put out the AUG video the other day. Those weapons are very good. They can become a little bit weak in terms of being able to be consistent at range, but they're still very good and viable weapons. Right now, the M16, I'm using agency silencer titanium barrel because that helps with bullet velocity on all of the tactical rifles. And in addition to that, it helps with the rate of fire, which improves the time to kill. Field agent grip works properly on these weapons. 45 round speed mag, and then whatever optic you want, either the 3x or the 2x on this one. Obviously, when it comes to the AUG, it has a built-in optic, so you could always go with the stock or a grip or a sight, laser sight, for example, and you can go that route. So it really matter preference. For my MP5 secondary, I'm kind of experimenting with this. I was messing with the different ADS speeds, and it doesn't look like these ADS attachments are properly working. So it's still kind of a work in progress. We got agency suppressor, task force, the 50 round fast mags, and then the combat stock. And then I'm kind of like have an extra attachment I don't know what to do with. I think I might go bruiser grip just to help with a little bit of the recoil. But that's kind of, I'm still messing with that at class setup. And then these ones I kind of have, I switch these up sometimes when I go into plunder to test stuff. So these aren't all that important. Normally the perks I will run are EOD or double time, depending on your play style. And then overkill, hardline, restock, or even ghost. I said hardline this time because I've seen a couple top players. What they'll do is they'll run that with being able to spam the UAVs. So if they're trying to kill hunt, it costs much less. They don't need as much money. That's good. And then some people that are getting stream sniped, they'll go with high alert just so that they don't get snuck up on, which that one's kind of valuable in its own way. But obviously the meta is generally overkill. Then you go get ghost class or restock are generally the way to go. So you got a lot of good options here. And then a third perk is 99% of the time is amped, just because it helps you with the weapon swap, because more often than not, you're not going to be running around with the pistol. So it's almost always going to help. So number 9 and 8 are pretty much interchangeable. Just really depends on what you want. I usually like to have a ghost class and a restock class and different options for lethals. In terms of the secondary, we're going to use the Diamatti, which has the agency, the task force, the Ember Sight, the 30-round fast mag, and the Serpent Wrap. You could still go akimbo, since 99% of the time you're not even going to be using this actual part of the loadout. The secondary is almost useless because you're usually going to get this so you get your perks, which is restock or ghost, and then you're going to end up picking up a sniper. So I'd like having the option to be able to grab different options here. So for the car class setup, monolithic, 27.6, tac laser, sniper scope, and focus. And I particularly like the cover shot. It's one of the cleanest reticles. You got to kind of grind it out, which is a little bit annoying, tedious. But if you already have it, that is the one I would definitely recommend. It's very clean compared to the default one. And then HDR, pretty much the same class for the Diamattis. In terms of the HDR loadout, mono, HDR Pro, tac laser, variable zoom, and then the F-Tac Stalker Scout. And this one's a little bit more for range engagements, a little bit slower, a little bit more of a passive play style, kind of locking down an area, so it's not going to be quite as aggressive as that Kar 98. SPR is another good option. It's kind of a hybrid of both, but normally I don't mix those into my loadout because if I want to play aggressive, I'm going to go with the Kar. If I want to play a little bit more passive, I'm going to go with the HDR. And then we got number 6 and 7, which really haven't changed. These ones are pretty much the same. I've set these up so that I got restock and ghost. And then the Grau is the class setup that I like to use. Primary reason is because this is one of the best all-around weapons without an optic. It gives you a little bit of good close range because the ADS is still decent. It gives you a little bit further range because it has low recoil. And then it also allows you to run fully loaded. So if you want to go ahead and get this as your second loadout, you'll just drop the weapons, you'll automatically get the ammo. If you're going to use this for zone 5, you can land and you'll be in a good spot where at least you know that the weapon is a decent weapon that allows you to have fully loaded. You'll at least have all your ammo, and then you won't really have to worry about the Diamattis at all. That'll just kind of be a secondary, and hopefully you're going to find another weapon on the ground that you could swap those out for. But pretty much that would be the Grau setup. So that's kind of how that works. Number 5 is going to be a little bit contested, I'm sure, in the comments section. And this goes back to, like I was saying, the TTKs. Once you get out of these top 4 that we're going to talk about, it kind of becomes full access to about 5 or 6 other weapons that you can really interchange into the mix that are very viable. Doesn't make them meta, it just makes them very viable, just like the Groza. It's probably not meta yet. I think maybe once more people experiment with it and they kind of find out how they like it, they'll give it a chance. I think they're gonna see more people start to use it, but as of right now, it's as good as a lot of the other viable weapons. You could throw the Kilo in here, you could throw in the Grau again, you could throw in the M4. There's a lot of other weapons you could throw in this, but I figured, hey, new weapons, it fits in, it's viable, let's go ahead and throw it into the mix. The Kar 98 class setup is pretty much the same, but when it comes to the Groza, I like the Grau suppressor. I primarily use the Grau composite for that bullet velocity since the damage on this weapon is fairly good, especially since you're going to be using it for short to medium. You don't really need the extra damage range considering the bullet velocity is what's going to be very important for hitting the shots. In terms of the underbarrel, we're going to use the bruiser, which is, we've determined, and a couple other people have tested, that this pretty much helps vertical recoil by about 10 to 15%, whereas some of the other grips aren't necessarily doing what they're supposed to. So bruiser grip's a good way to go, even though it only says melee quickness. That is false. Then we got the 60-round fast mag. This thing is silent. It's like a whisper mag. Literally, when you're reloading, you'll hear it, and it is very fast, and it works, unlike some of the other Cold War weapons. I think maybe that's because it was added as part of the integration and not like one of those things that, hey, hurry up, do those ones, and they're still broken. And this is where you get a little bit of free reign. You could put on any one of these that's normally for close range. So you're going to either use like some kind of reflex sight of some kind, or if you want that crazy cracked out strafe speed, combat stock. Moves crazy fast like we've seen with the MAC-10 and a few other of the Cold War weapons. This thing will make it feel like you're on skates, like you have Stalker Pro. Can be a little bit tricky to hit shots sometimes though. Just because you're moving so fast, you do have to get accustomed to using it. But since this is your close range option, it's a good way to go either one of those options. And then you just combine that with the Kar 98. And the benefit of this one is the damage per the 60 mags allows you to take on multiple people. There was plenty of instances where I used the FFAR, which we'll talk about as well, where it feels like you burn through ammo and you're taking one person down because it's only a 50 mag. You go through the next and it's like, damn, I need to reload again. Versus with this one, it feels like you could take on 3 different people and then you can reload and it's very fast, and then you can go ahead and clean them up because of those extra 10 bullets and the damage profile of the weapon. The only difference here is the rate of fire is a lot slower than the FFAR, so it's less forgiving if you miss shots, but it's not a slow rate of fire weapon. Next up is the DMR with the Cold War MP5. And the DMR, it did get nerfed. It didn't get nerfed into the ground. I kind of thought it would because it's a very hard weapon to balance. This one's still a monster, short to medium. You will notice a difference at range. It's going to be a little bit hard to just spam that trigger the way we were before, but still the same class setup. Agency silencer, titanium barrel because of the thing we talked about, the tactical. We got the field agent grip, 30 round mag, and then the vision tech, 2x, 3x, or even 4x if you want. Normally it's 2x or 3x is kind of where I sit. Then we have the MP5. Then we got the agency suppressor task force, which we already talked about. This speed tape doesn't look like it's doing as much, so maybe you go with the bruiser grip because that'll help a little bit. I notice it does help just a little bit. And then we have that combat stock. So I think we're still figuring out that last attachment. It's either going to be the bruiser grip or, you know, maybe a speed tape. But overall, this one is a pretty good weapon. And something to keep in mind is for these SMG slots, they're very interchangeable. You can put the MAC-10, the Cold War MP5, or the regular Modern Warfare version. And all 3 of those SMGs are very good. They can fit into the meta. MAC-10 is most popular, but all 3 of them are very good options when it comes to being viable within Warzone. Next up is the FFAR, and this is probably my favorite loadout currently just because it's so fun, and you feel challenged because there's a little bit of skill gap using the FFAR. When you're at point blank, not as much because you just insta-delete. But besides that, once they start getting a little bit further, you start to notice, hey, you know what? This weapon actually takes a little bit of skill. It does have that melt factor too. So we got the agency suppressor, task force, bruiser grip, 50 round fast mag, and then either the combat stock, which helps that crazy strafe speed, or you put on an optic, which will slow down the strafe speed, a little bit less viable, but it gives you a little bit more viability at range just because you have a cleaner sight picture, even though these iron sights are very good. Car 98, same loadout, nothing changed there. And then we got the AMAX HDR, pretty straightforward. AMAX is a little bit different. We got the hollow sight because it's built for short to medium. And then the HDR is going to be long range. And you could easily switch out the HDR for the Car 98. Matter of preference. Mono, Zodiac, Commando, 45 round mag, combat, hollow sight. You can use the other hollow sight if you want to. And for this one, I am using the blue dot, which is the best optic or reticle when it comes to the hollow sights. Not even close. And the last one, number 1, is going to be the MAC-10, which some people are still in love with. I think we're going to get a little bit of shuffling there because the blueprint was so overpowered that there was really no comparison. So it kind of created this false narrative of how good the MAC-10 was versus it being just good. And it was like way overpowered. So good that got fixed. Loadout for that. You could play around with several different things. I used the Task Force Striker, the 50 round drum mag, the Serpent Wrap, as well as the combat stock. You can put on a suppressor if you want instead of the Serpent Wrap, instead of the underbarrel. You can put on a muzzle. Recoil is still very manageable. This is generally the class setup I like to use. And we got the AMAX, which is a little bit more built for medium to long range to take over once that MAC-10 fails you. And you can go with the 3x optic, which is VOK, still Zodiac, Mono, Commando, 45 round mag. So pretty straightforward. I think this 5th slot is really the one that people are kind of figuring out, fine-tuning. I think most people know that this is the way to go, but as time goes on, it'll get fine-tuned. Once some of the attachments get fixed, hopefully we'll be able to do another one of these with attachments that actually do what they say they do or get the correct stats for weapons. So this could shift heavily because the bruiser's not even doing what it's supposed to. Field agent doesn't do what it's supposed to. Like, there's a lot of different issues, reload, and like there's a lot of broken stuff currently in the game. But as it goes, these top 4 are very consistent. And then once you get 5, the next 5 weapons can kind of flop into there and mix up the meta, and then they're all viable. So that's really good state of the game right now. If you just want to be plain, go with the best of the best. Pretty much AMAX MAC-10 is probably the way to go. Oh, and that's pretty much it. If you did enjoy the video, learn something new, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. Quick reminder, Gfuel 30% off all the way until the 21st. Link near the top of the description, or just code JGOD at checkout. Appreciate all the support on the content, the channel, and every way you guys show support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.